Hi everybody and welcome to HMK Storytime. As you may know or may not know, depending if you watched the previous two videos, we are reading a story about Becky. Okay, and this is on part 3 and we actually got to the ballroom scene. Now there's only a few pages left, so hopefully maybe today, tomorrow, we will be getting this story finished. Right, so where were we? Okay, I'll start from the start from here. John held out his arm and Becky accepted. They walked off downstairs into the ballroom. The ballroom was packed out and had chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, tables and the edge of the dance floor, and stained glass windows around them. Becky looked around at all the faces and some of them smiled back, but most of the people started to whisper and glance to other tables. They all wanted to know who this woman was with John. All John did was smile, make a few nods when they walked past tables. He did not stop and chat. He looked like a cat that had got the cream, and Becky smiled. The band was playing a waltz when John and Becky sat down at the table. They all want to know you, Becky, said Vicky, smiling. Why? They have never met you before and you're sitting at John's table. Normally only I sit here. Can't you feel the gossip going around? Yes, but John asked me to dance and I'm looking forward to having a wonderful night. A waiter brought over some white wine and John nodded. This is sweet, John. Where does it come from? Asked Becky, sipping the chilled wine. From a local farmer that started to make a vineyard in the local country, and this is his first batch. Please tell him it's very nice. I am sure he will be pleased when you say that to him later on. Now shall we dance? Yes. John got up and escorted Becky to the dance floor and others joined them. The night went well and Becky enjoyed herself. Dancing with John was a great change from the normal life of staying in and watching TV. A few dances later, when they had sat down, a gong rang and the band put down their instruments and dinner was served to John and his guests. A male singer came in and started to sing soft music while the guests chatted and listened. The dinner was comprised of local game and vegetables that had all come from the local farmers, and they made small talk. After dessert we must go and mingle and find out how desperate they are to meet you, Becky, said John. Becky laughed. You're terrible, John. You know they have done nothing but look over and trying to find out who I am. Yes, they have tried and failed. Just like John not to say anything, said Vicky. Is he always this bad, Vicky? No, worse, she laughed. So tell me, John, how did you make your fortune? I know from the car that you was rich, but I thought you more of a solicitor than a farmer. I started off as an allotment holder and I noticed that everyone was using chemicals and I wanted a plot away from the others and managed to get one. I had an old Victorian garden book I found at a car boot sale and it was all grown organically. When my crops did not fail and the others were having to water every day when we had a drought and I was not, they started to ask questions. Later on, some plot holders started to copy what I did, and some of the old timers were well pleased as they had good memories when they did it when they were young. I asked the local farmer if he was interested in hiring out one of his fields that were not being used, and we agreed a price. A few years later I had several plots and opened my own local vegetable shop, and then I bought the farm out and everything went from there. I saw this old house on the market and it was such a mess that my sister thought I was mad. I was close to penniless when I bought it, but then I won the lottery and I invested the cash, and a few years later I started to buy at the local farms and everybody helps, and I sell to the local supermarket and everybody benefits. A good job he won the lottery, I say, but he still won't move into the 21st century, said Vicky. What about you, Becky? You still have not told me about why you're standing in the rain. My ex-boyfriend was cheating on me with another man and he sent me a text to say sorry he no longer wanted to speak to me or see me. That's why I was standing in the rain and then you came along. He's a fool and you're better off without him. Maybe? No maybe about it, Becky. Any man worth his salt should have told you to your face. I can't stand people that cheat. So tell me what you do for a living. I work in an office from 9 to 5 as a filing clerk. It's not much of a job, but it pays the bills. None of my friends are going to believe me when I tell them of this. Why is that? A poor girl with a rich man having a dance, they're going to think one thing only. Let them think what they like. We know the truth, and that is all that matters. Becky smiled. Now I have to go and mingle. Do you wish to join me? Yes, sure, why not? As they started to walk around the table and John started to chat to the people there and make small talk, they did not ask about Becky, and Becky thought that odd. Becky, this is Fred Wimbledon, the new wine grower. Fred, this is Lady Becky Faithmill. Mr. Wimbledon, your wine is wonderful. I hope you can tell me your secret one day. Thank you, Miss Faithmill. I'm honoured you like my wine. Maybe I can show you around my farm one day. It would be a pleasure, Mr. Wimbledon. Mr. Wimbledon smiled and puffed his chest out, feeling very pleased with himself. Have a nice evening, Fred. Thank you, John. It's a great party as normal. As they moved off and did the rounds, a few more people were introduced to Becky, and she greeted them each with a polite smile and some small talk. They all invited Becky over to look at their farms, and she accepted every invite. The evening started to close, and Vicky pulled Becky to one side as John said good night to his guests. You have made him very happy this night, Becky. Thank you, and I'm glad he's happy as I've had a wonderful night. I presume he was cheated on in the past? He was very angry when he found out I was cheated on. Yes, but that is history. Now let's talk in the garden, and John will join us shortly. The small garden they walked into was enclosed by hedges, and roses of all kinds were growing everywhere. They sat down in a porch and they chatted away until John arrived. I must say, Becky, you've made everyone gossip, and thank you for a wonderful night. I'm sorry, but I must go to one of my farmers. His wife is expecting and he is frantic. Please feel free to stay the night, or Vicky will take you home. With that, John bowed and left them together. I hope everything will go all right. Everything will be fine. This is just the first child this couple have had. Knowing John, he will stay up all night celebrating. So what is it to be? Stay for the night or go home? Would it be dreadful for me to ask to go home? I have had a wonderful night, and I don't want to spoil it by waking up looking a mess and imposing on your hospitality. Sure, no problem. Let me get Mark to drive you home. The dress and everything I will have returned after I have had them cleaned, said Vicky. Don't be silly, Becky. I will not be worn by anyone but you, and you will be invited to more dances, if you want to, of course. Thank you, Vicky. It will be a pleasure to come again. John will be happy, and I'm sure he will ask you when he gets back. I hope so. Just don't break his heart, and I'll make sure he will not break yours. You must come to tea tomorrow. That would be wonderful. Good, now let's get you home. As Mark drove Becky home, Vicky smiled and thought, is she the right one for John? I hope so. He needs a woman in his life besides me. With that, she walked back into the house and started to chat to the guests that had been invited to stay for a private business party. That's going to be it for today. Okay, hopefully everybody is saying, yay, what rubbish, but, you know, loving it. As I said, this is the first book I actually got published, and this was published in 2013, so it's been out for 2 years now. Okay, but I didn't do it to make any profit off it or do anything like that. I did it because I wanted to write a book, and I did it, and I've got it, and here it is. This is Becky. This is one of several short stories I've done, and I'll do them all on here. So hopefully you enjoyed episode 3. Episode 4 will be hopefully the next couple of days, and I think maybe one more episode after that, and we will have finished the story of Becky. Now, one or two of my friends have asked for a story about Vicky, and I have actually done a story about Vicky, but it is not published yet. So I may read Vicky out. It all depends. I may wait until that's published, or I might actually start on the nice story that I did, very first one, which was Tara and Ted. But for now, wherever you are, have fun, stay safe, see you next time, bye for now.